Strong magnitude. 7.1 aftershock strikes Japan. The strongest aftershock to hit since the day of the March 11 earthquake and tsunami in Japan rocked a wide section of the country's northeast on Thursday night, prompting a tsunami alert, raising fears of new strains on the crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant and knocking out external power at 3 other nuclear facilities. The public broadcaster, NHK, said there were local reports of injuries, fires, and blackouts. No tsunami was detected, the Japan Meteorological Agency said. The aftershock had a magnitude of 7.1, according to United States Geological Survey. Last month's quake, which devastated much of the northeastern coast, was measured at 9.0, but the agency warned that slight changes in sea level were still possible, and it was unclear whether there was any damage along the coast. Many coastal communities were ravaged last month, and some are vulnerable because seawalls were breached and land levels sank as much as 3 feet. Early Friday, injuries were reported in Sendai City and across the region, and blackouts continued in some areas, according to NHK. 5 coal-powered power plants also shut down, adding to concerns over energy shortages. Workers at the Fukushima Daiichi plant were told to take cover until the tsunami warning was lifted, but Japanese officials said at a news conference that water was still able to be pumped into 3 damaged reactors and a spent fuel pool. At a 4th in the crucial effort to keep their nuclear fuel cool. The plant's cooling systems were knocked out by last month's quake and tsunami. Nitrogen also continued to be piped into the number 1 reactor, the company said, in an effort to prevent a possible explosion. The Tokyo Electric Power Company, which runs the power station, said early Friday morning that it had found no new damage to the plant so far, though workers were checking to make sure there were no new radiation leaks. Monitoring posts around the plant were not showing any immediate increase in radiation levels, the company said. A big aftershock is thought to pose an additional risk to the Fukushima plant because its containment structures, now filled with water that is highly radioactive, may be more vulnerable to rupture, according to an assessment by the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission in late March. 2 other nuclear facilities, a fuel reprocessing plant and another power plant, both in northern Japan, were running on emergency diesel generators after their external power was knocked out. The single reactor was shut down for maintenance, and all nuclear fuel has been transferred to spent fuel pools, which are being cooled by backup diesel power, according to the operator. A 3rd site, the Onagawa Nuclear Power Station, lost 2 of its 3 external power systems, and cooling stopped temporarily at a spent fuel pool there. All 3 plants have been shut down since the March 11th quake, but power is needed to cool the nuclear fuel. The aftershock hit at 11:32 p.m. local time and was centered 41 miles east of Sendai, 72 miles from Fukushima, and 205 miles from Tokyo, officials said. It was approximately 30 miles below the ocean floor, about 10 miles deeper than the March 11th quake. Hundreds of aftershocks have followed the initial quake, but Thursday's was the strongest since March 11th, according to the United States Geological Survey. The police say approximately 12,600 people have died as a result of the March 11th earthquake and tsunami. More than 14,700 are listed as missing, including about 4,200 in the evacuation zone around the Fukushima plant. An estimated 160,000 people remain housed in temporary shelters. Early Thursday, before the quake struck, nearly 240 police officers from Tokyo and about 100 from Fukushima Prefecture fanned out wearing protective suits in a search of bodies in the 12-mile evacuation zone around the Daiichi plant. Concerns about the plant remain high. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission speculated that some of the core of the number 2 reactor had flowed from its steel pressure vessel into the bottom of the containment structure. The theory implies more damage at the unit than previously believed or known. While a spokeswoman for Tokyo Electric dismissed the analysis, a spokesman for the Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency of Japan agreed that it was possible that the core had leaked into the larger containment vessel. The possibility raised new questions. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission said that speculation about the flow of core material out of the reactor vessel would explain high radiation readings in an area underneath called the dry well. Some of the radiation readings taken at reactors numbers 1 and 3 over the last week were nearly as high as or higher than the 3,300 rems per hour that the Commission said it was trying to explain. So it would appear that the speculation would apply to them as well. At number 2, extremely radioactive material continues to ooze out of the reactor pressure vessel, and the leak is likely to widen with time, a senior nuclear executive said. It's a little like pulling a thread out of your tie. Any breach gets bigger. Flashes of extremely intense radioactivity have become a serious problem, he said. Tokyo Electric's difficulties in providing accurate information on radiation are not a result of software problems, as some Japanese officials have suggested, but stem from damage to measurement instruments caused by radiation because it exceeds the maximum dose that they are designed to measure. It's killing the measuring equipment. They're blaming it on software, but their meters are getting cooked. Broken pieces of fuel rods have been found outside of reactor number 2 and are now being covered with bulldozers. The broken pieces may be from rods in the spent fuel pools that were flung out by hydrogen explosions. In other words, this is a massive, ongoing, rolling disaster, and one of the worst in the history of the world. Revelation chapter 8, verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. 11. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many humans died of the waters, because they were made bitter. And Revelation chapter 16, verse 8. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. 10. And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. 11. And blasphemed the God of heaven, because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. Yes, this is another physical manifestation of the book of Revelation, and these are more signs of the end times, transition days, which is a continuing day-by-day process of extraordinary changes, happenings, and events. Everything is connected, and everything is numbered. The fourth angel comes quickly,